John. Thanks, John, for being here. Appreciate you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? What does your business look like? What market do you service?
Sure. Happy to be here, Gus, and thank you for having me. So I am here in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of the hottest markets probably anywhere. I'm with EXP, and I came from the Detroit area, which at that time was the hardest hit economy in the United States. And I've told the story literally hundreds of times. I would have to go, I cut my teeth on for sale by owners. Then I added on expireds. Then I added on withdrawals. Then I added on what we call here off markets. Mm-hmm. And I've got all my own scripts. In fact, I've got 4 or 5 pretty prominent podcasts out there that I just keep forwarding to all my new agents. And it's developed a pretty good size following. Because when I started, no disrespect, but nobody would help me. I was kind of in an atmosphere where, everybody was kind of in it. Yeah, you get it. So I said, okay.
I'm winning. If I share anything with you, I'm going to lose. If I share with you, right? I totally understand that. Yeah.
So that was a wake-up call for me, because I'm all about giving and sharing and giving back. I've got about 96 agents now in my downline, and a lot of them came, right out of another career. Like out of my 18 years, I actually carried 2 careers for 8 of the 18 years. And I learned how to prospect running through airports, waiting at a gate for an airport. So I bring a stack of, here, I'll show you. I always had a stack of real estate leads with me. So I would never let a spare hour go by
and hit
without trying to get some appointments.
That's awesome. Yeah. That is outstanding. You didn't want to lose time. Boom, sat down.
Exactly.
You hit that list. I love that.
Yeah. So for sale by owners, expireds, withdrawals, those are still my favorite 3 prospecting avenues and always will be. I've added on a few things since then, but where I was going was when I was back in the Detroit area, I would have to go on 4 or 5 listing appointments, Gus, to find one that could sell.
Because
everybody was upside down,
right? One that could actually qualify to sell. That's like, some people think, what do you mean? That was not that easy for every market throughout history, right? Things change.
So we're talking 05, 06, 07, 08 was technically the bottom. And I had just moved here to Charlotte, the tail end of 07, if you can picture that. And when I got down here to Charlotte, everybody said, "Oh, John, wait till you see the market's bad here. The market's really slowed down here." And I'm like, that's all I could do to keep a straight face. I said, if you want to see bad, come on up to Michigan with me for 6 months. You don't even know, because stuff in Charlotte, we can't keep them 10 minutes here. Gotcha. So that's my basic background. I'm all about the phone. I'm all about prospecting, just relentless. I track my dials, my appointments, my leads, I'm pretty, I got 4, I got 4 different of these right at, 12 inches away from me year round, just monitoring my own activity, let alone my agents. So having said that, as the EXP thing continues to grow and I get a bigger and bigger downline, that takes me away from my calling ability. So I'm just not getting enough calls out. Now I've probably had, and this is where I'm going to a gigantic compliment to your organization, I've probably had 15 or 20 ISA groups call me. Okay. And I think you're going to enjoy this story. So if you would walk with me for a minute, if you'll permit me. And they would call me all fired up. "John, I want to be your ISA. I'm with such and such company, and we're the biggest, we're the best, we're the most effective, we got the best scripts." "Really? Okay, well, that's pretty interesting. You're the biggest and the best." I says, "Well, would you care to put it to the test?" And they're like, "How do you mean?" I said, "Well, let's do this. Are you ready right now? Or I'll even give you a few hours to prepare. You can call me tomorrow morning." So what I'm going to say is, let's pretend I'm a homeowner and my listing just expired last night at midnight. Go ahead and give me your pitch that you're going to get John DeSmedt a listing appointment. Let her rip. And I would catch them so off guard, they didn't know what to say. Wow. I said, "I'll give you another chance. Call me back tomorrow and get your ducks in a row."
Wow. So you even challenged him. You laid down the gauntlet and said,
Yeah.
You got 12 hours to get ready, right? Give it your best shot.
And a couple of them would call back, but most of them would never even call me back. They'd say, this guy's, he's ahead of us, which in most instances I really am, because this is the life I've led for 18 years. So I saw your podcast on a Facebook message group. And here's how I found you guys. I listened to Calvin in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah, Calvin, love that guy.
So he sounded so great, and you guys sounded so great as to how he credited and complimented Power ISA. I listened for about 10 minutes. I says, you know what? I got to call this gentleman. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's the best I've heard of yet. So I cold call Calvin, and we've become fast friends over the last couple of months. I've been up to his office twice to speak to his group. Awesome. I drove up there.
That's smart, by the way. I haven't heard of anyone doing that, like going out there and actually taking a look at a well-run operation. That's nice.
Yeah, and Calvin is wise beyond his years. Feel free to share that. I told you so. About building a business from the back end forward with putting the proper systems into place first. Where I'm a little older than him, I got more gray hair on my head than he does. So I learned it lead gen first, get on the phone until you can't dial anymore. So I learned it kind of old
school. Figure it out as you go along, right? Get the clients to the door, and then everything will you'll figure everything else as you go along. Yeah, 100%.
So nothing happens till somebody sells something is the way I was always taught. So Calvin comes at it 180 degrees different and has built just a massive internal system, which I was blown away at. So I heard him expound for a few minutes about his ISA experience with Power ISA. I said, I got to find these guys, because what's happening, here in Charlotte, it's starting to just very slightly change. But I'll give you an example. The neighborhood I live in Matthews, which is a nice suburb of Charlotte. The subdivision, Gus, I live in has 670 homes. We have 29 realtors that live in our subdivision. We all know each other.
Cool.
And we haven't had a listing in 3.5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So there's normally 18 or 20, and 5 or 6 sell, and then 5 or 6 more come on. We haven't had a listing in 3.5 weeks, and most of Charlotte is that tight.
Wow.
So to find sellers that could sell, because the big problem is we have lists and lists of people that would love to sell, but they got nowhere to go because there's no inventory. Yeah. So this is the ultimate bottleneck right here in Charlotte. And I go to Atlanta twice a month. I have agents there. So I need to get 2, 3, 4 times as many prospecting calls out there each week to find the same number of legitimate seller prospects, or my numbers are just going to deteriorate.
Yeah.
So that's when by totally accident, I saw you guys doing one of your podcasts, and I said, I got to look those guys up. And then to your guys' credit, we were immediately put in touch with Joe, and then Joe had a couple of conference calls with us with Daniel, and we interviewed a couple people briefly. And then we're ecstatic right now. We have this young lady named Alita, who's our ISA, and we're probably about 6 weeks in. And I put my first one under contract last week. So I got a listing from her.
Nice.
I got my second one this Saturday from her. And the first one last week is already under contract. We've got a signed offer.
Nice.
And just so you know, I've got my own Alita book now.
No.
So I've got
numbers.
7 new
numbers.
Yeah, I've got 7 new legitimate seller prospects, Gus, in about 6 weeks.
Love it. Love it.
But you know what the story is here?
Yeah.
Here's the gold. So here's a young lady that does very well bilingual. Okay, so I used to speak, I took 4 years of Spanish in high school, but I forgot it all. So, and I could kick myself because down here in the South, I could really use it, but it's a different game when you're prospecting for, listing leads, just rapid fire in these calls. So she told me about her background. And I said, Alita, let's do this. let's draw a line in the sand, you and me right now, and forget what's happened in the past. That's in the rear view mirror. Now you and I are going to start fresh, and we're going to dummy this down to ground zero. I tell everybody I took the little bus to school. So we're going to dummy this down to my level. So here's what we're going to do. Let's pretend you and I are going to get in a boat, and we each got a fishing line. So you and I are going fishing, and you're going to make calls every afternoon, 4 hours a day, because I have for part-time only. I'd love to up it to full-time, but let's see where the next few
and that's
weeks
all
take
this,
us.
and that's worth noting. That's from a part-time caller. Oh, this is
Part-time caller.
This is getting more impressive by the minute. Keep going, John.
Yeah. So I said, Alita, here's what I want you to do. I'm never going to assign you any, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to have a quota every day, every week. I don't like that. I wouldn't like to live under that atmosphere. What I want you to do is you just be Alita. Let's pretend you and I are in a little rowboat and we're fishing, and we each got a line in the water. So you're making calls and you're making calls, okay? And when you get one that sounds any degree of positive towards, yeah, we're thinking about selling, we're not ready yet, but maybe 4 to 6 months out, we'll be ready to list. Drop everything, get them into my corner, and I'll get them in the boat. So when you get that little nibble on your fishing hook, get a hold of me immediately. Text me, call me, message me, and I'll drop everything. And we've got 7 of them right now. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to take the pressure off of her. I want her to feel good about herself. This is the mindset going in. You're not going to fail. Just hang with me here. This is going to be a long ride. It's not a sprint. And you're not going to be held under any kind of artificial quota, because that's not me. Okay. As long as you're working, I'm your best friend. So she's in Mexico. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. To just throw her into the fish tank of expireds and for sale by owners right out of the gate, I think would be so unfair to her, because those are live bullets. Those are really quick, fast calls. And you have to have some experience and knowledge. I mean, around here, I just got one last week, a for sale by owner. He had 168 calls the first 2 days after he listed as a for sale by owner, with right off of a Land Voice lead. Okay. I use Land Voice is my number 1. RedX is my number 2. So I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to do the cold canvassing, call them geo leads or circle prospecting. And that's what I need you for. I'll handle the expireds and withdrawals and FSBOs for now, and I'll slowly work you into that game. But right now, you're not ready for that, because, you know, like a guy 6 blocks from me over here in Charlotte, he expired last night. He's had 50 calls already today, maybe 80. And here's Alita calling him from Mexico, trying to get John DeSmedt a listing of him. He's going to say, well, how in the heck do you know what's going on over here? You're not even anywhere near here. So that would be so unfair to her. Let me handle that guy. That's what I'm good at. But let her get the higher volume of multiple calls going out each day. So she's got the vortex, you know, that's what they call that multi-dialer thing.
Yep.
And she loves that. So let her do what she feels good about it. Let her build some confidence, and then let her run. So 4 hours a day, she's doing about 200, 250 calls for 4 hours a day.
Nice.
So I've done the numbers on that.
On the power line dialer, the vortex, they're using the circle dialing. That's how you started with her on the circle dialing with RedX, right? And Lambda. Cool.
Right. So, and we get KB Core with EXP. So we're way behind on our database, and that's my fault. I mean, I've started and stopped at 6 times in the last 10 years. It's just, it's a tough thing to keep after when, you know, when you're doing this all day long. Sure. But where I'm going is, what I really liked about your organization is we interviewed one, and this is through Daniel in your organization. He was terrific, and feel free to tell him I said that. And we could tell right out of the gate, it probably wasn't a good fit. And then we interviewed a second one, and probably almost the same language barrier and just really, really green. And I'm sitting here listening. Yeah, I'm sure they're well-intended, but they're about to jump into a shark tank over here in Charlotte. They're going to get eaten alive.
Gotcha.
So I didn't hear anything for a few days. And then Daniel calls me up one day. He says, "Hey, John, I got somebody here you may want to talk to." I said, "Sure, I'm open to anything." So here comes Alita. I knew within 2 minutes she was perfect.
I got you.
Because the first impression is everything. You know, big personality, big smile, a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, which is my cup of tea. So now we just have to take her and train her a little bit and then let her run. Rather than overthink it, overcoach her, over manage her, just give her the list and let her run. So I'm getting results now.
Love it.
So
love it.
And I communicate every day. And she's had some rough days, but she's had some really good days. So part of it is, you know, a lot of pats on the back to keep her motivated. But no, we're very, very happy.
Love it, John.
Okay.
That's an awesome story. You know, thanks for giving us all those details. It's important, right? It's important. You got to find a way to make it work. And the fact that you've made it work with a part-time person makes it even more impressive. You've got some good data sources. You've got some good scripts going, and you've got a model that I think works really, really well. You know how to do this job, right? You've done it before. The ISA is coming in to add leverage, right? The ISA is not there to figure this out for you. Like, hey, how can this work? Like, you know how to do that job, you know how to get it done, how to get results, and you know what good performance looks like too, right? You're like, okay, yeah, this is the process, right? This is how we go on it. 100%. That's awesome. And John, what would you say to folks that are considering, you know, working with Power ISA? Maybe they heard about us on a podcast or on somebody else's show. They heard Calvin, they heard someone like that. What would you say to them?
I think that's a great question, a great point. What I would say is, whether you're a team or a solo agent, like it's just my wife and I, my wife does my admin and I'm pretty much the rainmaker here. We've always had it that way, and that's the way we like it. Give it a chance. But what I would say is try it, you know, be laser focused on like whoever the person may be considering trying you, know your own skill set and know what you're trying to do and try to marry that up with who your chosen ISA would or could be, because you have to be pulling in the same direction. Like my story about if I would just throw her into this fishbowl of expireds, she'd get run over if she didn't have any prior experience.
From day one,
but she's great at cold calling. So she's working my database. I mean, we've got 150 subdivisions that she's got in front of her to call in the next 6 months.
Nice.
And what I do is I told her, I says, if we can get this thing to first base, I'd love nothing more than to up you to full time. I'll make the commitment. But I think it's so critical that they know what you want as a real estate professional, and your expectations of what they're capable of are realistic from day one. Otherwise, it can go sideways quick. So does that make any sense?
A great person with a great team and a great process. You need all of them. You need all of them to really take off.
I really think so.
And be success. You can have the best person in the world, but if not doing the right activity, if they're not on the right project, the right campaign, I agree with you. You're not always going to get that great result. So, but John, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for the kind words. Appreciate you,
Gus.
and thanks for giving us the time today.
Hey, no problem at all. Good to talk to you. Take care.
All right. Thanks.
Yes, sir.